Stage 7 of the Amgen Tour of California was off to Santa Rosa for a 109-mile circuit race in Sonoma County, famous for its 400 vineyards for wine. What a lovely place at sunset.
Certainly is, but for the riders, the penultimate day of the race had Julien Alaphilippe in the yellow jersey by 16 seconds and facing up to a great challenge coming from Rowan Dennis and Brent Bookwalter.
He expected attacks today, and the riders were not going to disappoint as they rolled away from what would be the finishing line approximately 4 hours later.
Heavy clouds at the start and a little bit of dampness, but once they got to the first climb of the day over Harrison Grade, Peter Stettner, a local rider, lives in Santa Rosa, made a quick escape looking for mountain points, but also looking for his chance to get himself some points in the King of the Mountains.
But the man who was going to confirm himself as the winner of the Lexus King of the Mountains, Evan Hoffman, he was out in front over the top of King Ridge. He would also be over the top on King Ridge a little bit later on, the same climb, different line.
But when they came to the fourth King of the Mountains point over Hauser Bridge, the green jersey of Peter Sagan was first man across the line in a six-man breakaway group that forced itself clear on the descent.
BMC had a plan. They constantly attacked all day long and they put the riders up front, but the yellow jersey was up for the fight. It so left 6 riders out in front as they were about to say farewell to the Pacific seaboard, and Peter Sagan had moved on.
Yes, so when they came down to the final sprint point of the day, Peter Sagan ripped away again to get himself a few more points at Carmet Beach.
And even out on course on the last climb of the day, Sagan in the lead, and there was a baby on board. And the King of the Mountains elect was in trouble, but it didn't matter because Evan Hoffman had won that championship. Meanwhile, along Coleman Valley Road, Peter Sagan was making his play to win the race, and he was a long way out from home. The riders he'd left behind had George Bennett in it and the green jersey of Lawson Craddock. These 2 riders were dangerous. There was also a crash as Taylor Shieldon fell on the way down. He was okay.
Yes, amazingly he remounted and was able to get back into the front end of the main field. But around about 20 kilometres, 12 miles to go to the finish, Peter Sagan decided to call it a day and waited for the remnants of the main field, because coming into Santa Rosa, it was certainly going to be a royal day for the sprinters.
3 2.8-mile circuits, and Team Katusha managed to control the whole race. Peter Sagan, though, knows the wheels to pick, and forever he was tracking the wheel of the sprinter, Alexander Kristoff. 1 lead-out man left for Kristoff. Kristoff breaking for the line. Sagan was locked on him. Challenges came thick and fast, but this time Alexander Kristoff was going to win. Or was he? Right on the line. It was very, very close, but Kristoff got his first stage win on his first visit to Santa Rosa.
Perfect timing, coming across the line in the black jersey there with the blue stripe down the middle, Danny Van Poppel. But Peter Sagan did not give up right the way to the finish line. And when we went to look at the photo finish afterwards, it was oh so very close. Not very much more than inches. But the man, Alexander Kristoff, notched up his 8th victory of the season so far.
It was a very select group of sprinters, and where on earth did Peter Sagan find the strength to take on Alexander Kristoff after a ride like he'd had all day? And the yellow jersey of Julien Alaphilippe, well, he was under pressure throughout the day, but he finished with the group. He would say afterwards it had been the hardest stage of the race as far as he was concerned, but he kept his race leader's yellow jersey. Very close indeed, as the photo shows Sagan almost taking it on the line.
Yes, but from a dramatic finish, setting itself up for a day of the sprinters on the final day around Sacramento. Julien Alaphilippe was challenged, but he still held on to 16 seconds in the overall standings on the eve of the final day.
On the right, Van Poppel, in the middle, Kristoff, and on the left, the world champion Peter Sagan saluting the crowd as the day's winners. And we can confirm that here. In 4th place was Mike Ternisser from Lotto Jumbo, and Brian Coquard, the French sprinter, crossing the line in 5th place. The top 10 completed by Axon's youngster Ruben Guerrero. The King of the Mountains decided, of course, you've got to finish the race on the last stage tomorrow in Sacramento, but Evan Hoffman now, there's no more climbs, will run out the winner of the King of the Mountains title by a nice margin over the yellow jersey, Julien Alaphilippe, Oscar Clark, who was our first day leader, finishing in 3rd place in that competition. In the green jersey competition, and this almost in bed now, he can't be caught, he just has to finish, Peter Sagan. He is a clear leader, especially with the points he gained with his 2nd place sprint today. So he has 56 points. There's only 15 available tomorrow. Alaphilippe will finish second, Rowan Dennis third. And as we look through the top 10, Danny Van Poppel, the ever-consistent sprinter on Team Sky, finishing in 10th place. But Paul, the man who should win this race tomorrow and become the first Frenchman to do so, Alaphilippe.
Yes, I think he deserved it after the performance he put in yesterday in the individual time trial around Folsom. And he continues to stay at the top of the leaderboard with 16 seconds advantage over Rowan Dennis and 38 over Brent Bookwalter.
Andrew Talansky there in fourth. There was no change in the end. Lawson Craddock tried to improve but will remain in 6th place on the road to Sacramento tomorrow.